Okay, let's do it. Hi,
Okay.
welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today comes from the opposite side of the our world, from Taiwan. April
Yes.
Shangdrok, welcome.
Yes. Hello, Irina. Nice to be in your channel.
It's so great to see you. So I got introduced to your yarn by an American store, online store called Knitters Without Borders, and I love that store because they introduced me to so many different, like unique, very exotic yarns. So when I got this package from mine,
Oh,
it was, I mean, besides the fact that it's absolutely gorgeous, like the colors are just so dramatic, deep, moody, but if you guys could touch it, it's like the ultimate softness. So this is yak silk, and you
yes.
can dye that. But before we go into all the yarns, tell me like how you got into all these things. Tell me your crafting story.
Yes. I have a chance like 20 years ago. I joined a volunteer trip to Tibet and with a group of people to be the English teacher for the summer. I went there and I know some Tibetan students from the camp. So I'm the only one, actually who can speak Chinese and English. The other person who from England, from American, they couldn't speak Chinese. So most of the Tibetan students, they feel more comfortable talk to me. So we become really close friends. And I just feel sad, like after the English camp, like they're so enthusiastic about learning English. They have this idea, like if they learn English well, that one day they can have a chance to go out and to tell people about their story, to work, abroad. And as an English teacher, I feel bad because I know how hard it is. But that is a driven for them to learn English. So before I come, they just say, we cannot go to see you, but would you come back to see us again? I feel like it's really heartbroken. It's true, I own so much freedom. So I just say yes. And I just I come back like every summer, I visit them. And then I noticed some of the students who even couldn't pay the tuition, so they just off from the school. And I just trying to do things to help them, encourage them, don't give up. And we do the flea market, we held the music concert, trying to fundraising for them like every year. And but after a few years, I feel like we support some of the students from the fundraising we do. And some of them they just graduate from university. And I feel like, wow, a Tibetan university student, they definitely can do a lot, right? But after they graduate, they just notice like they just suddenly just they just become like nothing to do. They couldn't find a job, but it's not, they cannot go back to be a nomad anymore. Like this kind of, they didn't know the skill, they don't get used to the life in the tent. So I just feel like, okay, so what is the purpose? We try to encourage and say to get more education, finish your high school, finish university. But in their society, it's very hard to find a real job. So I just feel like have to think about things in the long way, in the long term. So we talk and talk, and I just noticed many of my students, they really love their tradition. They love their weaving, the hand spinning, and also how they make the woven tent.
Right.
So I do some study, and we're trying to do some products with the felt. And my husband and I, he learned hand felting, I learned the hand spinning. And then we find a place we can find the clean yak wool. So say, okay, let's do it. And so we just hire some people and trying to do the hand spinning yarn and the hand felt products. So that's how Shangdrok start. Um, we start doing the hand spinning, but it's just sells really, really slow. As being a while, we just didn't know what we should do next. So during the COVID, um, we usually go back to Tibet, our workshop, like every year. We stay 6 months or 3 months to teach them our new design and try to keep the quality control goes well. But during the COVID, we are not able to go back. So we do have a very a difficulty to sell or redesign or teach anything new. So I decided to try the hand dye yarn in Taiwan. And I think, okay, if I learn it and I try to sell it in Taiwan, if that works, probably I can go back to teach them how to do the hand dye yarn. And it turned out the hand dye yarn just went very well in Taiwan, even we just have 5 colors. That's crazy. It seems so little now, but it sells very well. But I also understand that it's very hard to teach them to the hand dye yarn because there's so many note taking, so many number calculation. Most of artisans, they couldn't read and write. So that become 2 parts, the hand spinning yarn in Tibet and the hand dye yarn I keep doing in Taiwan.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that nomads in Tibet like have a long culture of felting and like fiber arts because they live with these animals and they use the wool of the yaks for felting for the tents, as you mentioned,
Yes.
and also like for the clothes. So there's like a long culture of this, right?
Yes, for 1,000 years. Even now, like the artisan in our workshop, I think their parents' generation still doing the hand felt, the hand spinning and hand woven. But I think until like the artisan in our workshop now, even they are like 50 years old or 30 years old, they didn't really participate the hand skill anymore. I think it's the parents' generation still doing it.
Yeah, no, it's very important that like this knowledge stays alive.
Yes.
Well, tell me about your journey into the hand dyeing. Was it difficult to learn? How did you learn? How did you learn the basic
Yes.
skills of hand dyeing?
Actually, I think since 9 years ago, we started doing the hand spinning yarn. I always dreaming about like, okay, when we're familiar with this skill, we're definitely going to do the dye, the colors. And so I tried the nature dye, but it's very hard to control the pH numbers and also like indigo dyes, they always make the yak wool yarn become really hard and crispy. And I just feel like, no, I just couldn't handle the nature dye very well. Um, so I kind of just leave it there. I keep our hand spinning yarn in the original colors. But during the COVID, and I started to think, okay, now maybe I should try the acid dye. So I learned it and I find I already buy so many books about the acid dye, but I never try it. So I read, and all the books are English, there's no Chinese book about this acid dye, the hand dye yarn. So I just following the book and do it in my own kitchen by myself. And I still think like something missing, like the book ready too simple, like some skill, and some question. I couldn't find the answer. So I start to try the YouTube and I just really amazed, like so many hand dyer who just willing to share so much. And then I just follow those hand dyer, their YouTube channel and write down the notes. And then I think the next step is I find out the online course is from the Sweet Georgia
Hmm.
in Canada. It's more like it's really have the system and have very step by step and told you about the theory about the hand dye yarn. So I feel like it helped me to complete what I pick up from different place, include my own like practice. I think after I trained for a year, I feel like, oh, I have more and more experience. Yes.
Well, to me, like the hand dyed yarn falls in the between the two categories. There is part of it that's like pure science, right? Chemistry and
Yes.
exactness, like to repeat the same color, you have to use exact the same formula. But there is also like artistic part of that because you can always, not always, but like lots of times, I can tell who the dyer is just by looking at the colors of the yarn. Like there is something
Really?
very unique about like specific patterns of color or like how the yarn looks that you can tell who, like oftentimes I'll scroll through Instagram and I'm gonna like know, oh, this is the yarn by this dyer, you know. So where do you see yourself falling in between these two categories? Are you more of a scientist or are you more of an artist when it comes to yarn dyeing?
Of course, more like artists. So at the beginning, I always trying to create the new colors, and I kind of don't want to spend too much time on note taking, you know. It's just like you have to write down the amount, how many spoon, and how you layer. You have to draw the map like very clear way. I feel like I don't have time to do so much of this. I have to keep creating color and to try new thing. But then after a while, and after you lost so many recipe, you just realize how important you have to keep the two sides of you. So I think I learned to like growing the scientist's mind more to balance the other mind that are trying to create the new thing. I don't want to repeat the old thing so that I can record my recipe and I can discipline and try myself can really do like every part at least consistency.
Right.
So
I saw a picture of your son on the seashore, and you mentioned on an
yes,
and you mentioned that you had hard time naming colors, and sometimes you get inspiration from like pictures like that. Tell me a little
yes.
bit, like, how do you get inspirations for your colors?
I think when I start trying to hand dye yarn, there's something in my world totally changed. Before, you just live your life, probably you more care about food, or your friend and family, but suddenly I just become very sensitive about the color. Um, Everything you see is colored. And before, I feel like I never be so sensitive and so noticing the color. So I just feel like even like walking with my son to the park, like so many flower and leaf falling down, like even the falling leaves, they have different tones and hues of brown and green and yellow. And my son can help me collect all these leaves. So we just like appreciate, look, like how amazingly this three color can change like in different leaves. Even we go to the ocean, we go to the mountains, and I just feel like I'm so inspired. And my husband is a very amazing photographer. So sometimes I would ask him like to take the photographs, like so I can collect this photo and try to pick up some color just strike to my mind. Something like sometimes when I was a little bit down, and I just noticed I like to pick up the color. It's really bright, have the neon colors. I feel like you need something to cheer you up. But sometimes, like the fall season, you like to see, you choose the photos as more like warm, like peaceful, like more earth tone. I just noticed like there's no a pattern. Like sometimes the color strike to your mind, something is reflect like what you feel now, what you need now. And I feel like I really enjoy the most is when I finish all the color, sometimes I inspired by something I see or the photographer my husband take. After discovered all the color, hand out the color, I have to sit down and name those color. Sometimes I notice that's a very difficult part because I feel like I have to do it right. You know, you have to reflect. This is the name I feel it is. So it sounds like it take a long time, but sometimes just like a baby and a sea is just reflect me like we finally have a chance taking my son to the ocean. And I just remember how surprised I see the ocean in the east side of Taiwan. The color is totally different than the west side. And how amazing I see the children can fit in the ocean and can play with the ocean like the 3 and 4 hours, never get tired of it. It becomes the color in my mind and I can name it with my memories. So I just have to say, like, even the naming process, I really enjoy it, but also like as a headache process as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the basis of the yarn that you use, because there's a variety of yarns that you hand dye
Mm.
about it.
I think we first choose the yak and silk. It's because we're beginning when we do the hand spinning yarn. And because we're based in Taiwan, and we just noticed that it's really too warm, like for the knitter in Taiwan. And then we just noticed the weather is getting warmer, no matter like in Taiwan, Europe, United States, everywhere. So I start to worry about like, oh, but we're doing the yak wool, what should we do? If one day it's getting so warm. And then I just noticed like, oh, actually you can combine with different bases. So when I find out this base, a yak and silk, and as the feeling, the texture is really amazing. I never can imagine like this yarn can fit in Taiwan. The countries are always humid and hot. So I try it at the beginning and just fall in love with it. And I feel like it's become as my turning point. I feel like, okay, that is a solution for yak. They have to work with the other fiber so they can show uh, their variety of the nature. Not only yak wool, is how it combine with the other fibers. So I just happen to be, I'm so lucky because I've some of my customer overseas say, yak and silk is actually very exotic for them, right? For the European American, like it's more like Asian the stuff. So I think the yak silk yarn just give me a very good beginning. At the beginning, I feel like worry about the price become really luxury, expensive. So when I first released this series, I do worry about it. But surprisingly, I just realized something. I think that for the knitter, what they care about is not really price. That it's about the texture and the project they finish is something, if that's something really made them feel special, the good quality is worthy to need this sweater for a month. I think they're looking for something like this. So that become our standard to choose like different bases. Yes.
I mean, it also gives the most perfect stitch definition when you knit with yak silk because there is like strength of silk, but also softness of yak, and somehow it doesn't peel. It's a beautiful fabric, like great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I don't know why, because we talked to some people like yak is a very short fiber, but amazingly, it didn't peel.
Right.
That's a very strong nature.
So where is this yarn being manufactured? You get the yak
In
from the Tibet, and then where is it?
in China, yes. Now we source this yak wool and we find the factory that we try different factory, but some factory the way they're making yarn, I don't know how to say it. Sometimes probably it's about the twist, right?
Right.
Or it's how them put these two fiber together. Do they comb it first or not? Or what the quality, what kind of level the silk they use, and also what level the yak they use. Sometimes you just feel it doesn't feel right, right? So when you try the yarn from the different factory, you can sometimes I feel like, oh, I wish I had a factory so I can, I can try by myself. I think this is too tight and this two is too much. But the yak silk that we work with this factory, it just turned out it's really perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Um, we talked briefly before we started this interview about the frustration of many roles that you have to play, that it's not
Mhm.
just being the hand dyer, but you also have to be great at marketing. Tell me your marketing learning journey.
Oh, well, I at the beginning, I feel like I'm more like artist person. So sometimes I just wish I could focus on the work I do. So sometimes I hope that if our work is good enough, it will spread out naturally. I don't need to say too much. I don't need to do too much. So people will naturally come. But after a few years in the market, you just realize, no, sorry, this is not true, So, oh, it's also during the COVID.
Right.
like this is a turning point because we do facing the point that we probably financially have to shut down, and we couldn't go back to Tibet Plato, our workshop, for more communication. And our workshop stopped for 3 months. So at that time, we just feel like, okay, we have to face the challenge. Like, if we should really consider shut down this brand, or would you do something else? So we decided to try the hand-dyed yarn and participate a lot of online course. So I just participated online course in Taiwan. It's about teaching you about how to promote, how to sell your products, how to be a good sales, and how to adjust your business model. I think that's the first time that in my life I'm just learning so much about the business. And I think at the beginning, I really um, not really want to get into the business world. Especially I learned something about the sales. He said, if you create your business, you are the best sales for yourself because you will never ever to find someone who as know your product so well and who are so passionate about your products and also who are desperate to see the success. So the boss have to be the best sales. And he just teaches how to write down the customer that you want to reach out, just call them and write email and keep knocking the door, not giving up. This is totally not, it's against to my personality. I want people to love it and just talk to you naturally. I don't want to force people. I don't want to try to push them too hard. But those things just force you to be very, how to say that, take initiative. Like, so I learned it. I just feel like, okay, I force myself to do it. I write down the young shop that I wish I could reach out. And I do write the email and I write them on IG. And I also say, I can send you our simple yarns and keep writing the email. Sometimes I feel like I'm blush my face when I'm writing the email because I feel so embarrassed. I try and I try. I probably feel like this person just write too many email to us. And so, but I think this learning process is really helped me to lay down my dignity and try to be very passionate about my products. And so we start to have our first customer and the second one, the overseas young shop. It just gives us a lot of encouragement. So I think now I feel like I'm not so easy to feel embarrassed or shy. I just feel like I should go for it. There's so many people that didn't know you.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you also have an amazing story of helping people in Tibet, so it's people who might, I mean, there's a lot of variety of yarn in the world, right? And
Yes.
the neater you pick the story that you believe in. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we connect not only with the fiber, but with the people behind that fiber and the story behind that fiber. And I think like this is one of your strong points of your company because you coming from the place of helping people who need that help, so.
I'm surprised that as well. I'm really surprised that people are really interested in what we're doing. At the beginning, I feel like have to be the product they want. But I feel like they're willing to know and they ask about more details. That's really surprised me. And I feel like then I understand because now actually we already have more products than we need. Then people start to noticing the difference between these products. They do care about like who making this, what is the value. So those things become really important.
I think you touched on a very important point that like you are the best marketer of it because you know it the best.
Mm.
How were you learning about all the qualities of yarn and like what was that process like? Because there is not too many books about like the staple,
No.
the yak down and stuff like that.
Yeah, when like 9 years ago when we started the hand spinning yarn. In Taiwan, we couldn't find any course, any teacher teaching about hand spinning yarn. We do have felting class, so my husband could go to the hand felting class. I went as well, but I'm so bad at this, you know. So I just feel like, no, I shouldn't learn this. Then I tried to do the hand spinning yarn, but we couldn't find it. Then we just try looking for an different opportunity. Then we find someone who is a Taiwanese who live in America more than 10 years as my friends on Facebook. So, and he learned hand spinning in America, and she loved hand spinning. So she had a lot of books and the DVD. So, and she's very passionate about sharing this with us. So one day she say, "Oh, there's a chance she will come back to Taiwan for like 2 weeks. And she willing to teach us." So we just say, "Okay, we will go to the airport to pick you up to our house." So we go to the airport and pick up this stranger and come to our house. And he lived with us for a week. And we watched the DVD, and he even left the book like in English about the wool, about the spinning. So that's where we learn about we have to, buy the book and buy the DVD as we can. And most information are in English. Like, so I feel like we also learn by mistake. Yeah,
Well,
we make a lot of mistakes as well.
I
Yeah.
mean, do you feel like, did you expect to find all this community?
You mean the knitting community?
Knitting community, spinning community, like any yarn enthusiast community?
I think in Taiwan, we do have a few of this community. Yes, so you just have to join them. Like at the beginning, I also joined a lot of like Facebook groups,
Yeah.
like hand spinning groups. I'm trying to ask a question.
Well, I
Yes,
notice you also have patterns on your website. So tell me about
yes,
those.
yes. At the beginning, like actually I learned hand spinning. Then we make a lot of hand spun yarn. Then I just realized, oh, I have learned how to knit, you know. So we make yarn first and we learn, okay, how to knit. And then we just realized, oh, not even like this. Actually, the customer, they need to see this project, not only the yarns. And I just realized, oh, okay, for them, yarn is a yarn, but only the project can give them the picture and be like, oh, so we have to be the editor of the pattern. We have to create those patterns. So we also learn how to develop our own pattern. Then we just feel like this is not enough. So we learn how to, knocking the door with the other designers. Say, would you willing to cooperate with us, use our yarn to design some projects? And so I think that's how our pattern become more and more. At the beginning, and we invite some designer. Some designers say, "Oh, I love your yarn and your catalog looks so beautiful, but your website, you always say only shipping in Taiwan. We have to cooperate with someone who can shipping all over the world." I'm just like, oh, okay, so we have to improve that. So I think like we learn by mistake and we're trying to make our business model healthier, have enough pattern, enough project for people can imagine how to use our yarn.
It's so interesting because I recently was participating in the knit along that Ruth Nguyen organized. And one of
Mhm.
the shawl that I was knitting she made it in one color. And I actually used the kit from Sweet Georgia, like funnily enough, and I used 3 different colors to combine for the same shawl, and it looks so different. Like, so sometimes when people see yarn, they really can't imagine like what to do with that yarn. But once you see
Yes,
the project, it's like the opportunities just open in front of you, and you start thinking outside the box, right? Like you're not just thinking, oh, it's one color shawl. You think, oh, I can
yes,
in all different colors. So it's
yes.
Well,
So at the beginning, we think, oh, that's easy. I learned how to make yarn. That's good enough. But then you're like, no, you have to do more than that.
so what do you see happening in the next 5 years?
Wow. We are thinking about, before I kind of disappointed about I couldn't teach our artisan in Tibet to do the hand dye yarn because it's so complicated, right? You have to read those words and numbers. But now we just have these ideas because I feel like after I hand dye so many yarns, I just noticing, actually sometimes people also enjoy the solid color, but hand dye. So we have a plan to go back to the Plato and to teach those artisans to hand dye the solid color. That's very easy for them to remember, just like how many grains of this color in the water and stir it and how to hand dye the solid colors. So I'm surprisingly, we have the hand felt products and hand spinning these two categories, but the yarn department always like sells so much better than the felt products.
Mhm.
So I feel like probably is I feel like when the felt product is the hat, it's a vest we made, it's already have so many brands doing it. But as a yarn, I think the nature is a very special groups. I think the knitters really care about the texture and the animal fiber, where did it come from? And they try it, they know it's good, they will come back and again and again. So we just feel like that definitely should be our, very important goal, the yarn and the Tibetan artisan. So our next, but we're also worried about can they really handle this hand dye yarn very well? So we feel like we can do the summer camp like this. We can invite them all together in the summer, probably a 2 month. We just hand dye the solid color and we just say if we sold out, then we sold out. That it's a limited edition, like hand dye in Tibet by the Tibet artisan.
Right.
So we just definitely realize the knitters community with the Tibetan artisan and the yarn as a really good combination. Yes. So we started trying to do the how to say that live stream show where in China, as in China, the Instagram in China, they have their own Instagram.
Right.
Instagram is called Little Red Books. So we do the live stream about how they do the hand spinning yarn, and people can make order. So sometimes some knitter, they just sit there, they're doing their work in the computer and watch our live stream in Tibet. And they say, that's the yarn that I ordered. That give us an inspiration, that is supposed to be like this because people can see if something is really happening. It's not only a slogan, say handmade in Tibet. It's really something happening. You can connect to the people who really make this. Yes. So I feel like that's our purpose, how to draw people more to this artisan, the people who really make it, to show the worth and to know the value.
And I love watching your videos on YouTube, even if it's in Chinese. It's very interesting to see those people working. Like you can see how they hand spin the yarn, like on your YouTube channel. So I was,
Yes.
and it's beautiful just to see the nature and where they live and those animals grazing the plateau.
Yes, that's happened every day in our workshop. You can see the yacht coming.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you just came back from HH Cologne.
Yes.
How did you find that show? Like, did you find some new inspirations? Did you learn something? Did you started some new connections?
Oh, wow. I think the H&H Cologne is a big event and like so many information. And when I see like so many yarns there, sometimes I will ask me myself, what can we offer to this knitting community? It's already so many, more than enough. But I still meeting some people. We have a small booth sharing with the other brand, very small, just only bring a little bit of yarns, but we're meeting the customer, the client from Russia, from Europe, from America, to see how they react and to see how they know our brand through the Instagram. Um, I just realized, this market, or say this community, is much bigger than I thought. Like even in Russia, even in Korea, like even in like the country that probably you never have the chance to be to, but already have a lot of very passionate knitters there. So I just feel like I I'm happy with the size we have now. I just know we are very small brand, very small quantity, but I feel like probably we can offer the unique that where we begin. Maybe we just happen to be in Tibet, we happen to learn hand spinning yarn, happen to be learn the hand dye yarns. But I feel like it's all about the person, who made this. So even now, I feel like when I go to a restaurant and I eat a really nice food, I just feel like thanks for the chef who really put the effort to make it delicious, who care about all the detail, who didn't just cook it whatever
Right.
and didn't care. So I feel it's more like us, like we if we could just like really care about what we're doing, and we care about the color, we care about the artisan we work with, and what we can contribute to this knitting world, they will know more story about where this fiber come from, who this maker come from, and what is their thought, and is their story behind this. I feel that's what we can contribute.
Well, you mentioned when you started, you had 5 colors. How many colors do you have now?
Now I have 92 colors.
It's a whole library of colors nowadays.
Yeah, but I feel like this is non-stop, At the beginning, I feel like, oh, if I can have 20 color, that's just the end of the whole thing. But when you more do the hand dye, you just realize that's the fun part. It's never ended because there's so many different recipes that you can try with. This it's endless, I think.
Right. Well, I hope I'll get to see you at one of the shows one day, and
Yeah, probably Chicago
yeah,
next year.
next
Hope
year.
so.
That would be wonderful to have you there. And
Yes.
I'm so glad that we got introduced and I got to hear your story. I'm gonna put all the information about you and your company in the description of this video. So if you guys want to try this yarn for yourself, you can order it. I'll put the information how you can order it. And you want to touch it and squeeze it, and you'll love it.
Yeah, feel it by yourself.
It's actually gonna be on my needles this summer, so I'll keep you posted on what I'm gonna make.
Oh, please let me know what you feel about it.
For sure. Thank you so much, April. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you.
Thank you.